Hello guys, welcome to CodeRug. Hope you are doing great. Once again, welcome to ReactJs complete series. In previous videos, we have discussed about major update that React team has released, which is from now on react.dev. This will be the official website for any React documentation. Now, in this video, we are going to learn about React component. And as we know, component are the building block of any React project, we can say, and it is one of the important feature which React provides us, and which is component. As we know, React is all about component. At first, I'm going to discuss in theory, which is what is component, why it is useful, why React component is so useful when we work around with any React project. After that, we will go through some practical and live example, how you can create a component, how you can create a child component, and how you can export and import component, and how the website building block is made up of component. So let's get started. You can see I have created one block, that is component. Now, as per the React official documentation, components are one of the core concepts of React. They are the foundation upon which you build your user interface, which make them the perfect place to start your React journey. Now, if I explain you in easy way, then components are the building block of UI or any React application or any project we create. Now, the components let you split UI into multiple reusable blocks. So, as you can see, this component block I have created. Now, component are of two types. One is class component and another one is functional component. Now, if I create again two blocks, this one is functional component, this one is class component. So according to React, component we can create in two different ways. One is functional component and another one is class component. Now you must be wondering, which way will we go through? The functional component, if I talk about the functional component part, they are the easy function which we create normally in JavaScript. But a class component, in this class component, you have to follow proper class object scenario. You have to create a class, you have to create an object, you have to create a method inside that one, you have to proper create a constructor in that one. So you have to make proper use case of classes. Somewhere this class component become very tricky to manage, and as the project grows from step by step, at that place class component, yes, some projects or some developer prefer class component, but in some way it is not quite easy for another developer to work upon that one. As per the recommendation of React, mostly they recommend to go with functional component. The reason is why but in the starting from the React, class component was used. The reason is because of lifecycle method. I will go into detail of lifecycle method, but class component make use of all the React lifecycle method very easily, and you have to very specific about the lifecycle method you are using inside the class component. But after React 16.8, so you can note of that one, after React 16.8, or we can say 16.8 version, React has introduced the concept of hooks. Because of hooks, if I give you the example of some of hooks like use state, use effect, use context, use reducer, so these are the hooks. There are many more. I will go through details of each hooks in the later video, but After coming of hooks, we can make use of all the life cycle. I will not say all the life cycle, but yes, majority of life cycle method, I can say 99% of life cycle method we can make use of inside functional component, and that's the reason they are more preferred if we are going for functional component, because as we are able to make use of life cycle method, we will make use of functional component because they are easier to write, they are very easy to understand, and we don't have to write too much code for a single component, I can say. So this is all about component. And why it is useful? The reason is why we say React is all about component. The reason is why, as you can see, if I give you the example, one second, where is my, yeah. Now consider this is your project, or you can say any web application. Now for any web application, there must be some header, there must be some footer, there must be some sections are there. Now you can say this section will be like you are listing a products, product 1, product 2, product 3, like this one. Like this one you are listing your product. Now this one is normal product listing page. So for this one, header will be a component, footer will be a component, product will be a one single component, and then we will make reuse of this single component for various products, because we will loop through one single component and we will list out all the products into your blocks. Now if I go to another page, now I can say product detail page. Now inside product detail page, there must be header, there must be footer, and I can say there must be one single product detail will be there. I will write it. I will write it product details. Now you can see we are reusing header component, we are reusing footer component, and we have product detail. Now there must be some side menu will be there. So I can say menu. As we are building e-commerce website, so there must be one search bar will be there on the top. So I can write search. Okay, so that means search bar or search box will also be a separate component. As we are moving from one page to another page, there has to be header, there has to be search bar, there has to be footer, and there has to be menu and product details. Now as the product detail page we remove, there will be product, individual product list will be there. So this is the very basic example of why we need component, and that's why we are reusing component. Even if you take example of this Microsoft whiteboard website, the top menu, or we can say header, this will be a component, this will be another component, this side menu will be a separate component. As we are moving or as we are reusing different section or different pages, we are again reusing each component, and that's why React is all about component, because we divide our section into components and then we reuse those components so that we don't have to rewrite code again and again. We can make reuse of those component very easily. In previously I have told you that component we can write it into two different way, functional component and class component. Now if I show you how the functional component look like, this is our React project which is up and running, and if I go to app.js, you can see it is normal function which we normally write in JavaScript, function app, and then we are returning some JSX, and once you return something, it will get re-rendered to our UI, and once you open the UI part, This is how it look like, and this is our first component, we can say. Now you must be wondering how the class component will look like. I will give you the example, like just like a normal function we have created. This is for functional component. Now for the same, if we are going to write the class component, then we have to follow class app extends react dot component, and it will return something. So it will be render will be method inside that one, inside class, and this method will return some JSX. So it will return. Now if I want to return some kind of paragraph, then hello world. For one app component, you can see I have created one functional component, one class component. Now you can see the difference. For one single I can say app component, this much code we have to write, and we have to use the method of render. We have to return something again. If we are creating another method, if we are again reusing different lifecycle method, so we have to write too many lines of code. But this single app, or we can say component, we can really make use of functional component. So I'm just removing. So I will make a detailed video of how still some people or some developer prefer to use class component. So I will make a separate video on that one, and we will go through detail in that class component. But now I'm using functional component in this tutorial. Okay, so I've created the functional component. Now I will make multiple components to make use of how we can make a section of a web, our UI. So I will create a folder first. So I will just name it. I have created header component. So every UI or every website has to be a header. After that, we are going to create another component. This can be our footer .js. And one thing you must make note of, guys, that the file name has to be, or our component name has to be in uppercase. We cannot make use of lowercase. So if we are writing or if we are creating any component file name, it has to be in uppercase. So we have created header, footer, and there must be one other component which is, I can say, like a sidebar .js. Now I have created 3 components, and I will make use of these components inside our app.js. I'm going to make use of functional component. So at first I'm going to import React from React, and this will be our header component. So const header, and once we create header, we have to return something. So I'm returning like h1. I can return, this will be h1, and I will write something header. And once we create a component, we have to export it. Export default header. In this way, we can write our component. So you can see we have taken a variable header. It has to be same name as the file we have created. It is like normal function we have created, and from that function we are returning our JSX. Now in the same way, first I'm going to save this one. In the same way, I'm going to create our footer component. I'm going to reuse of that one. It will be footer, and it will be our footer. In the same way, sidebar we will make sidebar. This will be sidebar, and this will be sidebar. This JSX will be like normal HTML we can return. I already have created video on JSX, so you can make use of that one, what JSX is and why it is useful in React. Now I'm going to save this one. So I have created 3 component: header, footer, sidebar, and all these sections or all these modules we need in every website we made. I'm going to reuse these component inside app.js. At first I have to import these components. First I'm going to import header. So it will, once it automatically give me suggestion, and once I click enter on that one, it will automatically come to the folder path. Now header, welcome to CodeRuck, and I will write header. Now in the same way I'm going to import footer. I'm going to import another one which is sidebar. Now I have imported all the component. Now I'm going to use it inside our app.js sidebar. Sidebar will be in, I can say, in the middle. Okay, I'm going to save these files, and if I run this one, you can see header will be there, sidebar will be there, and footer will be there. That means first I have created 3 component, I can say parent component, and then I'm using these 3 component, or I can say these 3 modules or component inside our app.js, and this app.js will act as our parent component, and inside our parent component we are importing child component, and the child component will be header, sidebar, and footer. Now inside header we can have, now this header can also be act as a parent component. If I give you the example, header component will act as a parent component if I create child inside this one, and child can be, suppose header we have a search bar, or we can have search bar. So I am going to create one new component which is search bar.js. I'm going to make reuse of this one, search bar, so it will be search bar, and in this search bar I'm going to return one input type, it will be text. Okay, this one I'm returning from my search bar, and this search bar component I'm going to use it inside our header. So for inside this one I have to import search bar. Once I import this one, return, I'm going to do in this way, there must be parent search bar header now. If you see the example how it looks like, so inside header it will be a search bar. Now if you inspect it, you can see the difference. App component is our parent component. Okay, inside that one what we did, we have footer component, we have sidebar component, and we have another component which is header component. Now inside header component, this one is our header component. Inside our header component we have header h1 tag, and another one we are doing return of search bar, and this header component is acting as a parent component for our search bar. So in this way you can create a component, and you can import the component, you can export the component, you can create as much component you want in your application. But the only thing you need to remember is like, don't create too many components. Only create those components which component you want to reuse in your project or application. Now if you making this component, you have to export this component. For export, what we do, export default header. If you want to import the component, you have to import that specific component. So in this way you can able to create a component, you can make use of those components. This is how all the like the component features in React work. In later videos we will discuss about how you can create a class component, how you can pass. Now if I give you the example, like you have created, or we have one app component. Now there must be scenario we want to pass data from our parent component to child component. We want to pass data. How? Suppose we have a product component. Now in product component is there, and we have several product listing will be there. Now we want to pass data from our parent component to child component. How we want to pass data from parent component to child component? For that one we have something called props, by which we can able to pass data from parent component to child component. I have already created a separate section regarding use of props, how you can pass data, how you can make use of that one. So in the next video we will learn about props, we will learn about lifecycle method, we will learn about the class component. So this is all about component, how you can create the component, why it is useful, why we make use of component. So all these things we have covered in this video. So thank you guys, hope you like this video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you guys.